What's up, guys? Today I'm going to talk about one of my favorite players, which was Lleyton Hewitt, and how we can apply his game into our game. So looking back on it, I was trying to figure out, read about his game, what made him different as a counterpuncher, and I was curious what people thought about why he dropped off. I'm always curious about what happens to the champions. Did they lose something? Did the game just change? So what I did is I found some stats, all right, from back when he played. And I agree with this. Besides the injuries, I think Lleyton Hewitt ended up struggling because of the courts changing and more of a heavy topspin ball instead of a flatter, faster ball through the court. Lleyton Hewitt's game was predicated more for passing those serve and volleyers. At that time, you had Pete Sampras, and then I think Edberg was just phasing out at that time. You had the baseliners of Murat Safin, Gustavo Kuerten, Federer, and of course Tim Henman was again one of those serve and volley players. And so his game was predicated for taking that pace, hitting those passing shots. He was great when he had a target. He was great with the lob. And then the game started changing. We started getting heavier and heavier balls. So if you look at this graphic over here, this shows Indian Wells 2023, forehand RPMs, the speed, the revolutions per minute of topspin on the ball. And what you see is at the lower end of the pros is 2,500 RPMs for the forehand, revolutions per minute of topspin, to 3,000. A lot of people are closer to that 3,000 mark, all right? So they are hitting a lot more spin on their forehands. Compared to, I found these stats of when Lleyton Hewitt was playing. I want to say this was the 05, about 2005 time period. This was from Tennis Magazine. And the person with the number one topspin at that time was Rafael Nadal. And I'm going off the top of my head. I don't have these graphics in front of me, but I want to say it was 3,200 RPMs was his average, okay? And Federer's was about 2,700. Now, his forehand ranged from 1,000 RPMs to 4,900 RPMs, depending on, what type of shot he was hitting. But his average RPMs was 2,700. So looking back at the 2023 Indian Wells already, you see that the average is what the peak was back in the early 2000s, right? And again, that does have to do with the courts because these courts favor more of a topspin ball that grabs the ball and makes it kick up versus if you flatten it out, it grabs the ball and the ball sits, right? And so then you had Andy Roddick followed by Andre Agassi, and Pete Sampras' revolutions per minute was about 1,900 for Agassi, 1,800 for Pete Sampras. So, and that just shows, Lleyton Hewitt was more about taking the ball early and flattening it out and using that to hit the spots. So it's way harder to hit those heavy balls. And what got me thinking about this was I was hitting with some of the top juniors here. And I was just rallying with them, hitting back and forth. And, when they're not nervous, their ball especially is a lot heavier because I ended up playing one of them in a match, and it was a lot easier to handle and take care of in the match. But just going off that, these juniors have so much more spin. It was, really hard for me, with that McEnroe racket trying to step in and flying it out. My timing was a lot tougher than when I played. The lower levels have the speed, but they don't have the RPMs, especially some of my top girls can really crack the ball fast. And I love that because the ball is still in my wheelhouse. And so it just got me thinking about Hewitt, got me thinking about, what happened in his career besides the injuries. And this is why I found these stats, and it kind of confirms, what we already know is that ball is so much heavier. I think it may be even a tad slower. That it's so hard to generate all that pace on your own without, big racket head speed. That counterpuncher thing's sort of phasing out. So those modern counterpunchers of Diminar and Medvedev, they have to be heavier, like a Ferrer, their ball has to be a heavier topspin. And someone commented that, doesn't Medvedev hit really flat? And he does. But he's also 6'6". So you got to ask yourself, how many people are 6'6" that can flatten out a ball like that, right? And the way I look at it is this. If I have someone at 6'1", okay, and someone hits a topspin ball that's at someone's chest level, about 6'1", they can still, flatten that out a lot easier compared to someone that's maybe shorter. It's like my height, 5'6" to 5'10". You have to be a lot more skilled with your timing, because now you're taking a ball when it's coming off the bounce, right, before it kicks up, which means the ball has not lost speed and it's a lot faster. And so everything has to be perfect. And if it isn't, if you're off by, millisecond, that can be the difference between catching it like this and missing it versus timing it well. As opposed to the taller I am, that ball, they have to hit a hell of a topspin ball to make that ball kick up over my head if I'm 6'6". So a lot of them, if they put that topspin, is going to sit up at my chest level a little bit lower where I can crack it. And so that's why Medvedev is an exception to the rule, right? For us mere mortals and, shorter people that don't have those physical gifts, that's a lot harder to do. So someone like Lleyton Hewitt, who was like 5'10", 5'11", it was hard, and he just didn't have the type of game, and he couldn't, where he can put the spin on the ball and really stop them from hurting him. But even then, he still had a great career afterwards. He made quite a few semifinals, losing to eventual champions like Djokovic and Federer, time in, time out, and Roddick. But it's just something to think about, and seeing how you can use, again, I always say this, but looking through the pros that mimic your games and taking each thing from them and using it in your own game, of how to stop someone from hurting us. Because what I was trying to do is trying to find out what, even though the game has changed a little bit with more spin, how Lleyton Hewitt made his opponents miss and how he was, such a great champion. And what he did is he changed speeds really well. And one of the things that I've heard about him is he hit this weird ball that wasn't super heavy. It just had just enough speed where it put him in a neutral position in the rally. And it wasn't too slow where they could crack it, and it wasn't fast enough either where it was in a wheelhouse that they could speed it up. So it was that weird, awkward ball that they had to generate something on, and they could get tight on and missed a lot. And I thought that was pretty cool to see. And then if they did add a little bit more pace, he could use that to his advantage. And so I use that in my game when I was talking about playing, these higher level juniors. It's about knowing who you are as a player. Because I have some juniors that try to play super offensive because the other top players are super offensive. But his personality does not match that. He's more of a safe person. I'm more of a safe person. I play it safe. So for me to go and try and rip the ball, it's just not my DNA. Simone and Gail Monfils, it's the same thing. They can play offense, and I do, but I more work out the point because I'm not going to hit someone off the court. So it's about knowing who you are, watch these champions, learn from these champions, all the ones that mimic your game, take each thing, and you can be a heck of a player out there, whether it be in college or on a USTA tennis courts in those tournaments. All right. Till next time, guys.